The terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001 came as a shock to the United States of America, as well as to most other nations. On that infamous day, 4 wide-bodied jetliners were used in the deadliest act of terrorism in world history. Before that day was over, 2,753 people lost their lives, and the devastation was felt around the world as horrific images and video began to circulate. Journalist Jeff Greenfield was on scene and said this:
"All we know today is that tens of thousands of people worked in that complex that has been destroyed. And I hate to say it this way, but this may be the day that America's luck ran out."
How could something so tragic occur in the greatest nation the world has ever seen? I mean, was this simply bad luck? Or were we warned about this hundreds of years before it happened? To find out, stay tuned. Greetings from Quest for Truth, a program about the world today and its future. Many people look back at the horrific events of September 11th, 2001 and still find it hard to believe. How could a small team of suicidal Islamic mass murderers plot within our own borders and implement the most deadly act of terrorism in history? How could the prestigious nation of America, with a wealth of central intelligence, be so dumbfounded and caught off guard and suffer such a severe blow on her own soil? To understand how this happened, we need to consider America's history from the beginning. Why consider that this country was founded on biblical principles? When the first pilgrims set foot on the shores of what became Massachusetts, there was a common reverence for God by the settlers as well as by following colonies. They upheld the moral standards of the Bible as a code of conduct by which all people should live. However, that's just some of the history that public education today does not want you to hear about. Today, the majority are misled and they have become ignorant about America's true history. Most schools and colleges today no longer teach the truth that it was the values of the Bible that made America the most successful nation in the world. Why it would be considered politically incorrect to acknowledge that the Bible is what led this democracy to become the longest lasting democratic republic ever. But that is the truth. Contrary to the past, relative few take time to study the Bible today. But that's exactly what the founding generations did, and they intended for all American citizens to do. Why, the Pilgrims, they studied their Bible on a regular basis. Children were taught biblical principles, and many statesmen actually took time to read through the entire Bible once a year. And the reason they were so studious within the pages of this book, ladies and gentlemen, is because they knew it was more than just a devotional manuscript. Why, the Bible was viewed as a vital document of history that can assist everyone in our day-to-day lives. They saw it as a way to keep us on track with what is good and right, not just for the afterlife, but it was long understood that the Bible has practical everyday use. Founding Father Patrick Henry wrote this, saying that the Bible is a book worth more than all the other books that were printed. Founding Father Noah Webster said, The Bible is the chief moral cause of all that is good and the best corrector for all that is evil in human society, the best book for regulating the temporal concerns of men. Dr. Benjamin Rush, a man who signed the Declaration of Independence, wrote, "The Bible should be read in our schools in preference to all other books from its containing the greatest portion of that kind of knowledge which is calculated to produce private and public happiness." The first President of the United States, George Washington, said that it is impossible to rightly govern the world without God in the Bible. These are just some of the men that laid the foundations of the longest-lasting democratic republic in world history. And the reason that it has remained intact today is because these men recognized the Bible's importance in life, in liberty, and in the pursuit of happiness. And their reverence for God is found throughout historical writings and is even seen in the very structure of our government. Why, notice what these men read in the book of Exodus, where the priest of Midian gave some sound advice to Moses when establishing the nation of Israel. "Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. What God inspired was a practical way to maintain law and order in large groups of people. And this is why America has a system of government where representatives are chosen on the local, county, state, and federal levels. It's a structure coming from the instructions to have leaders of 10s, 50s, hundreds, and thousands, rendered today as mayors of hundreds, governors of thousands, and congressmen of millions. Sadly, such people in office today are not required to revere God, leading to an increasingly corrupt government. However, that was never the intention of the Founding Fathers. In fact, it is also believed that our three branches of government are the result of what used to be common knowledge: that the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. These revered offices of judge, lawgiver, and king led to an understanding of how men should govern. It was decided by our Founding Fathers that America's government would have three branches, found in the judicial, legislative, and executive offices. And these would translate to federal and state courts, a House of Representatives forming Congress, and an elected president and vice president. All of these branches were originally expected to be in line with the ethics of the Bible, and they were for more than 150 years. In fact, the Bible is also the reason why tithes and offerings given to churches are exempt from taxation. Why the temple priest Ezra delivered a decree to Judea in 457 BC stating, "Also we inform you that it shall not be lawful to impose tax, tribute, or custom on any of the priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, Nethinim, or servants of this house of God," referring to the temple. Sadly, unlike the past, most of the men and women who lead the nation today do not revere God, the Bible, and many don't even respect the United States Constitution, even though they claim to respect its authority. In fact, elected officials are not required to be honest and to hate covetousness. Few in government know the statutes and laws of God any longer, but that was not the case during the first centuries of America. Why, the men and women who built this nation read and respected the Bible. Because statesmen refuse to do this today, and because many consider the Bible to be offensive, for these reasons, evil is spiraling out of control, and we continue to face crisis after crisis after crisis. What may be the biggest culprit leading up to the dire straits that are faced regularly today is public education. Government-backed education began as a well-intended effort to standardize math, English, history, and science. For nearly 2 centuries, these fundamental lessons included the need for moral decency according to the Bible. But those standards have been greatly lowered today. And this drastic change in school curriculum kicked into high gear in 1962 when the parents of a mere 10 students filed suit in New York State insisting that the use of prayer in public schools were offensive. That infamous case has had long-lasting effects, leading to tragedy on a massive scale. It led to biblical subjects as well as the ethics of the Bible being shunned by teachers and professors, people who call themselves progressive, but in reality their ideals make the situation much, much worse. In fact, kicking God out of education has led to more than 80 million babies being murdered through abortion at a rate of nearly 7,000 every week. This was never the kind of thinking that established by America's founding fathers. While the United States Constitution does not advocate separating God from the work of the state, consider just a few examples. The early settlers passed a public education law known as the Act of 1650 because they were convinced that biblically literate individuals would reject evil government. The beginning of this reads, "It being one chief project of that old deluder Satan to keep men from the knowledge of the Scriptures, as in former times, by keeping them in an unknown tongue," referring to printing them in Latin only, "it is therefore ordered that every township in this jurisdiction, after the Lord hath increased them to 50 households, shall forthwith appoint one within their town to teach all such children as shall resort to him to write and read. And it is further ordered that when any town shall increase to the number of 100 families or householders, they shall set up a grammar school." It was the intention of colonists that children were taught to read and write so that they would be able to read the Bible. Now today, some have declared that students don't have to be able to read in order to graduate from high school. Why, they would prefer that citizens remain uninformed and ill-equipped. But in America's earlier years, this would have been unheard of. Even in the late 1600s, it was troubling to hear that some children were not getting the education that was intended and that they deserved, and it was sponsored by the young states. And this led to establishing the 1690 Connecticut illiteracy law, which read, "This legislature observing that, notwithstanding our former orders made for the education of children, there are many persons unable to read the English tongue, and thereby incapable of reading the holy word of God or the good laws of this state." We can see that the concern for illiteracy was because they wanted people to be able to read the Bible and the good laws of the state and to be able to recognize the connection between the two. And this flies in the face of those who believe that the founding fathers intended for there to be a separation between government and the Bible. Why the expression separation of church and state is thrown around today as if it were a part of the founding documents, but that thinking is entirely false. The now infamous phrase is not found anywhere in the Constitution or in the First Amendment and comes only from a personal letter written by Thomas Jefferson, ensuring Baptist ministers that the government would not stop them from openly and publicly preaching their views of the Bible. Why, consider what a framer of the Bill of Rights and the primary author of the First Amendment, Fisher Ames, said about the government-sponsored education at that time. In 1801, Ames wrote an essay about school books because he was concerned for students possibly losing focus while many books were being added to school libraries. Why then, if these books for children must be retained as they will be, should not the Bible regain the place it once held as a school book? Its morals are pure, its examples captivating and noble. By teaching all the same book, they will speak alike, and the Bible will justly remain the standard of language as well as of faith. This is a primary author of the First Amendment, not saying that there needs to be a separation of church and state at all, but that the Bible should always be a part of our lives and never be discounted or disregarded in the classroom. But today, the Bible has been pushed out of schools. It's been pushed out of government, businesses, and more. Why some actually call Holy Scripture hate speech simply because the Bible says that certain behaviors are immoral and need to be avoided. Yet deviants say that we're a better nation today than we have been in times past because of a growing dissent from the Bible. But take a look at the state of the country and of the world. Why, consider the increase in violence, crime, illness, and disease, and quote-unquote natural disasters. Think about the terrorist attacks of 9/11, 2001, and the growing vulnerability due to this widespread tolerance of evil. Are we truly a better people? Are we safer and more prosperous than in times past because we're eliminating the moral values of the Bible? Well, the answer is obvious. We are not better people today than we were 40, 50, or 100 years ago, and we will continue to deteriorate because a growing number refuse to read the Bible and to keep the commandments of the Almighty God. Ladies and gentlemen, terrible times are on the horizon, and the only thing that is going to help you through it as Western civilization declines is to revere God and to keep the commandments. To know more about this subject, Quest for Truth is offering a free book. The Eternal Church of God produces a variety of literature to help people understand the importance of the Bible in every aspect of our lives. Today we are featuring the booklet titled The Ten Commandments. Many people believe that the Ten Commandments are an antiquated set of laws and they have no value in the modern world. Even most who claim to believe in God say that they are no longer required, but nothing could be further from the truth. This book examines the scriptures that declare their enduring necessity for all who believe. As a companion to this book, we might also suggest our booklet titled Read the Book. If you're interested in studying the Bible but do not know where to begin, this will be a helpful guide explaining not only the importance of the Bible, but a way for you to begin your quest for knowledge and truth. All of the literature we produce is free, offered simply as a service in the public interest. There will be no undesired follow-up. You may visit our website to read or request this book or booklet, or stay tuned, and at the end of this program, we will show you how to receive a free copy of the Ten Commandments or Read the Book. Ladies and gentlemen, thousands claim that the Founding Fathers of America intended for there to be a separation between Judeo-Christian ethics and the function of government. However, nothing of that sort can be found in the Constitution or any of the founding documents. In fact, so far we've seen many writings saying just the opposite. Notice what the second President of the United States, John Adams, said. But the general principles on which the fathers achieved independence were the only principles on which that beautiful assembly of young men could unite. And what were these general principles? I answer, the general principles of Christianity in which all those sects were united. James McHenry was a signer of the United States Constitution and served as Secretary of War under George Washington and John Adams. And McHenry wrote, "The Holy Scriptures can alone secure to society order and peace, and to our courts of justice and constitutions of government purity, stability, and usefulness. In vain, without the Bible, we increase penal laws and draw around our institutions. Bibles are strong entrenchments. Where they abound, men cannot pursue wicked courses." In 1844, the Supreme Court heard a case regarding the use of the Bible in schools. The decision of that case was unanimous. All justices agreed that the Bible should be used in public education because of its enormous value that was found in the precepts and principles. And here's what the court said regarding their decision. Justice Joseph Story wrote, "Where can the purest principles of morality be learned so clearly or so perfectly as from the New Testament? Where are the benevolence, the love of truth, sobriety, and industry so powerfully and irresistibly inculcated as in the sacred volume?" This decision by the Supreme Court was meant to preserve the Bible as an integral part of education. And yet it's a far cry from what the courts have decided in recent decades. Why, America's history is filled with references to the Bible and reverence for God. Not everything has been done perfectly in this country by the Founding Fathers. There have been atrocities as a result of misunderstanding and bad choices at times. That's simply an inherent part of the human condition. Nonetheless, the Republic of America became exceptional with the longest-lasting democratic republic in history, and the reason is because of its moral values. This was described by Founding Father Noah Webster, who wrote, "The brief exposition of the Constitution of the United States will unfold to young persons the principles of Republican government. Our citizens should early understand that the genuine source of correct Republican principles is the Bible. All of the miseries and evils which men suffer from vice, crime, ambition, injustice, oppression, slavery, and war proceed from them despising or neglecting the precepts contained in the Bible." Noah Webster was spot on. Everyone can see that America has been experiencing a dramatic increase in vice, crime, selfish ambition, injustice, growing oppression, and violence. Why, these are consequences, kickbacks, if you will, from neglecting and rejecting the principles of the Bible, and it's going to get much worse. Nonetheless, some continue to think that our current situation is just a matter of luck, and that there was no warning of the terrorist infiltration of America on 9/11 in 2001. However, knowing that the forefathers read the Bible for generations, America has been warned for more than 400 years that this kind of thing could happen if we refuse to accept the principles of God. Why, since the day the Pilgrims stepped foot on the shores of Massachusetts, we have known that suffering and ruin would come if we abandon the principles of the Bible. And the Bible, in fact, has always declared what the results of abandoning God would be. Notice what the Founding Fathers read, and what was once widely understood by the majority of Americans. As God said, "But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of the eternal your God, to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes which I command you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Cursed shall you be in the city, and cursed shall you be in the country. Cursed shall you be when you come in, and cursed shall you be when you go out. The Eternal will send on you cursing, confusion, and rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly, because of the wickedness of your doings in which you have forsaken me. The Eternal will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You shall go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and you shall become troublesome to all the kingdoms of the earth." Ladies and gentlemen, we see many of these things beginning to occur, and this is not the end of the warning. Why, God lists many curses that would come as a result of iniquity. And there is document after document, example after example found in this most important history book of all time, showing us the result of abandoning our inhibitions. But when people regularly read the Bible, when it is taught at home and in school, we gain practical knowledge, spiritual understanding, and we learn moral decency, and we know that we should revere God. And this is going to lead us to peace, to safety, and prosperity, as it has in times past. But today, people calling themselves progressive tell people to reject the Bible in order to flourish. But such thinking is foolish and a trap. For 3,500 years, people have been told what will happen when they obey God and what will come to pass when they turn away from Him. When we forsake the ethics of the Bible, God will abandon us, and there will be tragic results. Why, there's a famous saying by George Santayana, paraphrased by many, that says, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." What this means is that those who refuse to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And history shows us what the Founding Fathers of America intended, and it was never to forsake God in the Bible. Why, it's just the opposite. Why, it was the intention of great men and women of the past that we embrace the Bible as a unifier, something that we can all agree on. And the history lessons that we need to learn for longevity and prosperity are found in the Bible. And these are the pages that we should be focusing on today, not critical race theory or the Communist Manifesto, but the only volume that has long been considered the good book, the Holy Bible. Now, tragically, instead of doing what is right, there is a growing agenda to teach children today to deny God and to celebrate instead your personal lusts, bisexuality, and homosexual tendencies. Why we portray vices such as drugs, theft, illicit sex, and murder to be fun, shown in the movies and in video games. This new way of thinking has become so absurd that many want us to believe that those born male are not actually male, unless they want to be. And people say that girls and women, well, they can be boys and men, and that gender is fluid or neutral, which is not only ridiculous and unintelligent, that kind of thinking is devoid of good sense and judgment. Why the increasing immorality today has led to socialists being in key positions of government and education. Why people cheat and they lie in school, they cheat at work, they're corrupt in government, and when tragedy strikes, many people wonder, well, where is God? Well, the answer is He's in the same place that He's always been. When we are decent and moral, He's there for us. When we are not, don't expect Him to bail us out. And this is a warning that has been told to mankind since the very beginning of our existence, to obey God and live. Disobey God, and you will eventually perish. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand the importance of the moral laws of the Bible. And to help you, Quest for Truth is offering a free book. The Eternal Church of God produces a variety of literature to help people understand how God expects people to live and what the future is going to bring. In this program, we are featuring the book, The Ten Commandments. These laws found in the Bible are the moral foundation for all humanity. They are the way to peace and prosperity. It is what the Bible teaches from beginning to end, the way to blessings and the way to avoid tragedy. In addition to this book, if you are interested in studying the Bible but don't know where to begin, we can recommend this helpful guide titled Read the Book. This booklet discusses the importance of scriptures as well as how to begin your quest for knowledge and truth. All of the literature we produce is free, offered as a service in the public interest. There will be no undesired follow-up. You may visit our website to read or request these books or booklets, or stay tuned, and in just a few moments, we will show you how to receive a free copy of the Ten Commandments and read the book. Until next time, this is Terry Moore encouraging all of you to continue your quest for truth.
No one knows the day or hour when the end shall come to pass. Not the angels that dwell in heaven, only the Father from above. No one knows the day or hour when the end shall come.